your host, Willie Montague. We don't tiptoe around truth here. We most definitely tackle it. This show isn't for the faint of heart. It's for those unafraid to think, question, and lead. So buckle up because comfort ends here. This is Americana. All right, everyone. Well, as I said, we are most definitely not going to tiptoe around nothing on today. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the border crisis no one talks about and democracy versus disruption. What is really going on? Flight cuts, shutdown, and the hidden costs of the deadlock. It is a conversation that most definitely is not going anywhere for a couple of days. And then later on, we'll be joined by L.A. Jones, who is outspoken, unapologetic about it. And of course, we're going to drive it on home. So we have a lot coming on today's episode. But before we get started, you already know what time it is. Let's get into Willie's Take. All right, everyone, you already know this is the time where I get to have a little rant going on here. There is a quiet revolution. Do you hear it? No, it's quiet. You don't always hear about the revolution. It's not fireworks and speeches. It's the person who chooses honesty when lying is easier. It's the one who stands when everyone else sits. It's choosing principle over popularity, even if nobody's watching. That's where real change lives. And if you're listening now, you might just be part of the real change. And so today we're going to be joined by Latricia L.A. Jones, a political commentator, former U.S. congressional candidate, as well as just an outspoken American. And so we are so excited about bringing her on to Americana on today. This is definitely going to be an interesting conversation. And as we get into that, welcome L.A. to Americana.
Always great to be on the show and actually just being honest about what's going on. Too often, you're right. Everybody likes to go easy on everything, and they don't like dealing with the truth. But my thing is, especially to us, to the Republicans, if you cannot deal with the truth of what's going on, you cannot move forward. That's almost biblical as well. You cannot move forward.
She's already coming out the gate today. She's coming out. But let's talk about, before we get to that, because we're going to dive into it, we want to talk about the border crisis that no one talks about and just have a candid conversation. A federal judge has ordered the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to improve conditions at the Broadview Detention Facility in Chicago, citing overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and negligence. A stark reminder that a silent crisis is unfolding at the borders of justice. You guys, we have seen it time and time again, and I do believe we need to protect and shield our borders. But how did this even get this bad, and who is watching? LA, when we talk about the border, of course, we don't want illegals here, but why? Because I believe at the foundation of this is about God, and we still have to respect all people. So why is it that we're seeing these type of conditions in detention centers like this in Chicago?
Well, you know what? I think that we expect a solution to something that we don't even have a solution here in the United States right now, even with our jail system. The population is overcrowded everywhere. So now you're taking money from our system again and putting it into a whole nother system, creating jails for the illegal immigrants. And I will tell you what I look at spiritually. And this is my opinion, my humble opinion. I just pray to God we are not treating people the way that they treated Black Americans as slaves in this country, because people still have human rights at the end of the day. Of course, a lot of people broke the law to come into this country, but at the same time, if we bring our morals into what's really going on, The issue here is going to be, is this morally right? How are they going to create a system that's already broken to fit into the category with these illegals? Because these are the same people creating the system.
So do you think we've gotten away from this whole law and order? Because that's what we've been saying. Oh, it's law and order. Or have we just went right out the gate and start saying this is neglect? And for me personally, because and those you probably watched enough to realize I did vote. I am a registered Republican, but over the last days, it just seems that this party is just filled with a lot of things that are just not of my belief system. So what do you say, LA? Have we just lost it? We're now in the place of neglect. We're no longer law and order.
Have we actually ever been, I'm just going to keep it real. Have we actually ever been a country of law and order? You have a government that has a system of, uh, breaking the law themselves. Just think about it. I mean, this is a big picture. This is not such a small, minute picture like people want it to be. You think about the FBI, you think about the CIA, now you talk about Homeland Security. All those are big portions of government. And my concern about having government so involved in removing people, you know, it's lawlessness. Yes, it is. The system has always been broken. And again, I'm going to throw back at you. How can you, if a system is broken and you're putting more people into a broken system, what happens? The issues that you have right now that they're dealing with.
Now, and that's interesting that you say that, and that is true in many regards. But I guess that with the system, one being broken and it continues, but when are we really going to get what is due to us? And as you mentioned at the beginning about sure hoping that Black Americans are not, or that these illegals are not being treated as Black Americans, but even we turn it right back on the spotlight on us, there's still mistreatment of among Black Americans from within this same system. And here we are now, as you said, trying to throw money into this whole lock them up, put them there. But is this a temporary fix or has it become a permanent suffering? Because I really don't see anything that has progressed since just put them in detention centers.
You know what's progressed? The deficit is progressing. They keep telling us it's not, but nothing is free in this country. Nothing that we do is free in this country as well. So what is increasing again is the deficit to the American people. And I don't know if they actually properly planned out where they will place these people, because I'll tell you something else. What about these children? You have thousands of children nobody is talking about. What about the kids? You
Right.
talk about the adults, but what about the children? Where y'all put all these kids at?
Well, that's why in the beginning, the whole thing about this is about a border crisis that no one's talking about, and it's about the conditions. And I know that whether we want to call it illegal, and I'm not for any type of crossing over the border illegally, but I always have said this as a pastor, that he is the God of all flesh, just not the flesh that we like, the color we like, the people we like, and where we go. He is the God of all flesh. And so in that condition, as you mentioned about children, and I'm big about fighting against that, we should be running to the rescue of trying to find out how do we protect these children first and foremost before we even jump on bandwagon. But I do agree there's something that has to be shifted. Just real quick, as we get ready to go to a quick commercial break, this is how we treat people in custody. What does that say about us, as you mentioned earlier, in our own nation? If this is what we do in custody, with people who are not even from here, imagine what's happening here. So what do you say about the treatment right here in our backyard?
Exactly. I say that the system, again, it's a broken system. And the only thing they've done is put more people on top of a broken system. They've targeted these people because that's what they are. They have profiled them and targeted them. And I don't even like using words like that because those are chilling words, to be honest, at the end of the day. Do we want the murderers out of this country? Yes, we do. They should definitely leave. They have no right to be into this country. It's just so much that we're dealing with when they open up this can of worms called immigration. So now you have all these people, just like you're talking about, and mind you, so the catch-22 here that nobody actually is talking about really is that Even though Biden allowed them into this country, yes, and he processed a lot of those people as well. We are still the United States of America. We still should be a country that keep our word to what we're going to do, and we have to find the practices to make it better for all of these for the illegal immigrants, and they have to do better with the people that's already in the system. And I'm gonna give you an
LA,
example
don't hold
before I
up
go to
before you
that.
give an example. I want you to hold that because we getting ready to go to a quick commercial break and do that. I thank you, LA Bennett. She ain't going nowhere. Believe me, we getting ready to get some hot topics and build on this. But we do have to take a quick commercial break. When we get back, democracy versus disruption and flight cuts, shutdown, hidden costs on deadlock. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Americana.
How about now?
All right, everybody, welcome back to Americana. As I said, we're diving into some deep conversation today. And as we touched on yesterday, but this is not going away. As of 2026, it is just a couple of months away, and an off-year election and shifting leadership in key states show turbulence in the U.S. political map. What was once predictable is now precarious. All right, LA, we know that there is some things happening and coming up for 2026. We're talking about Democrats show a lead of around 0.3 plus 3.2 points. Democrats, that's 45.05% to Republicans, 41.85%. So what happens when the electorate shifts faster than parties can adapt? And we're seeing that. I want you to come full throttle. What happened on Tuesday? Because we got our tails whooped. What do you say?
And that's a nice way to put it. That's a nice way to put it. Some of they got their tails whooped. They got more than that whoop. Yep, the fat lady showed up and she sung real loud and clear to them. But you know what's sad? We are in a party that have a lot of older thinkers, and they don't realize. You know how our party do. They have a tendency to say, "Oh, it's because they blue states." Virginia was not a blue state. Virginia was a state actually Trump had won, along with another state. I can't recall which state that was. Now, if we go, the Republicans have to do something different at the end of the day. They're not people that get on the ground. They think calling people names. You know what? And I'm glad you're having this conversation because we cannot be continue to sit around and allow certain people to run this Republican Party the same way it's been ran for the last 50, 100 years, because that's what's going on now. We are still in a good old boy system is how it feels, because the last time I checked, we didn't even have a black congresswoman, to be most truthful. Not one. Not one. Now, if you look across the country, the number one, the voters are the women. If you ignore women like they do, do they realize President Trump really did not just win by mega per se? Because that's not true. He won because people crossed party lines and they voted for him.
Now
They
let
wanted something different.
Now let's go in there because this is what has been disturbing to me, as I mentioned, is that there is this fraction that has developed in both sides. And we're seeing radical left, we're seeing what they call radical right, we're seeing MAGA, we're seeing Republicans, conservatives, Constitution, then we're seeing progressivism, which we're seeing happen in New York City. And so with all of this going on with these different maps that's coming out, especially in the midterms, our state maps and voter turnout rewriting who holds the power before the next national vote, because as we saw on Tuesday, despite what was being said, you guys out there, it was a disaster for those who was looking for something to shift, because we thought that as long as we kept saying the right things crazy, that was going to change the needle. So LA, with that, do you really think that the people who hold the power is now completely shifting with all these new maps plus what happened on Tuesday?
I do. I do. A very good question. I think that the people that hold the power they're probably your generation. I think they're going out voting. They're not doing numbers on the age of the people that's voting. They're doing numbers on different demographics. They do numbers on, of course, the areas that they live in. But at the end of the day, and I want to talk to you about this as far as, for example, with New York. Has anybody ever thought that people are so sick and tired of Democrat and Republican in this country? As much as you want to talk about socialism, most of us have never seen that before, nor have we lived through it. Most of us have not. If you are an American
That's true.
citizen, that is the privilege of being born in this country. So have anybody thought about these people saying, what we got to lose? Remember all that old funky talk? What you got to lose? Because they directed that towards Black America in these last 6 to 10 years in these elections. Now, what do you have to lose? And not realizing Trump is saying the blacks have put them in office. And not only that, put him in office, but not only that, I think the people wanted something different.
Now,
I think that's why
I
that
want
young
to,
man.
before we move on, I would like to really ask you a question about this, because you have ran for office before, but I wanted to ask, what would be your winning message in 2026? Because maybe people don't have strategy. Just real fast, what would be your winning message that would carry us over to say, this is how we're going to be able to fight back?
Vote for candidates and not parties.
Oh, that was quick and simple. That's what we got to do. I'm so glad you said that, because that is exactly what the problem is. So let's dive into this last topic, and this to me is something that's not going away as of yet. It is very important. Now it's escalated: flight cuts, shutdown, and the hidden costs of the deadlock with the federal government shutdown, now the longest in U.S. history. The Federal Aviation Administration will reduce traffic by up to 10% at 40 major airports, exposing some of them out there in Washington, D.C., how deeply the stalemate touches everyday life. Up to 1,800 flights and 268,000 plus seats could be eliminated as a result of the shutdown-related capacity cuts. L.A., people are scrambling. We're getting ready to get into Thanksgiving. We got people out there trying to see who has the biggest parts. So what would you say with this? Why are we not opening the government, and why don't we just say, y'all, this is enough? This is crazy for both parties, but especially for Trump needs to speak up and say enough is enough.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And believe it or not, I think that had a lot to do with the vote also. I think that contributed to the voting yesterday because people are tired. You're talking about a whole government shutdown. And the only thing you hear is Republicans saying it's the Democrats and the Democrats saying it's the Republicans. That's just like pointing the finger back and forth. You did that when you were children. You don't do that when you messing with people's lives. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you are an American, we put those people in office to represent and serve us. And they still get paid every day. Still get paid $250,000. And we sit here and we talking about planning the rest of our year out. Most of us, you're not thinking about the people. This is not about a Democrat or a Republican. This is about children, is how I feel right now. Senior citizens, I don't care if they're a senior Republican or a Democrat, they still deserve services, period. Right now, this entire country, we the people, are being inconvenienced, is what we're
So
doing
now,
while they play games.
would you say this is this is because you mentioned this in the beginning that this is really have awakened the public because now they're like, listen, I'm sick of it because this is a disruption. It's a disruption to our travel plans. It's a disruption to our
Yeah.
livelihood. People are still not being able to get food assistance. You got people having to use, reserves in different states. So this has become something now that is no longer, to me, another headline, but we are seeing the public saying we're going to take action at the poll. But this is what's disturbing to me is that even though they want to blame it on Republicans, both parties had this. So what's going to happen, come in midterms? Are we just going to have a bunch of independent people running and that's who's going to win?
If we had a bunch of independent people running and they won, that would change the system completely.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the game changer the system probably needs, to be honest. And I'm going to tell you something else. As a staunch Republican, you and I both have ran as Republicans for office, and it pissed me off to see you have a president that did not even support the Republican nominee in New York, but you supported the independent.
And
You break the rules in front.
and did not support Wilson Sears either in Virginia. Did support the black Republican woman in Winston. And this is the part, and y'all can DM me later, but that's the part that upset me because that's how we lost to a radical liberal white woman, and we already know what Malcolm X said about that. And so what do you think if we must happen in the next 48 hours for the shutdown to stop? Because we're in a decline and people are scrambling. It seems almost like the COVID era where everybody's like, oh my God, what to do? So what do you think need to happen in the next 48 hours real fast?
In the next 48 hours, they need to have immediate boots on the ground meetings. We need to be reorganized, restructured. And I'm going to tell y'all something. The people that think alike need to get together and take over a party. That's what you need to happen because that's why we got so much confusion. See, that's where I'm wrong. That's where I'm racist if I said something about color, but everybody else can talk about their color, but black people can't talk about being black. And this is the problem we have. It's the truth. This is the problem we have in the Republican Party because y'all already know how I roll. One thing about me, I'm truthful.
Well, I am
truthful.
I thank you, LA. I know you're truthful. We already know how it is. Well, thank you for being on Americana today. That's all for today on Americana, y'all. I'm Willie Montague. Grateful you spent your time most definitely digging for the truth with me. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on AFROTV. Until then, stand firm, think freely, and never trade truth for comfort. Have a great night.